Okay, guys, so today we're going to talk about the distance formula.
Recording?
It is recording, yes. So distance formula today, and then we'll get into midpoint later in the week. So the distance between 2 points is the absolute value of the difference between those numbers. Why do you think it would be absolute value? Do you know what absolute value is? Do you remember what, Harrison?
It's just like the number.
It's always positive. Why would distance always be positive?
Because you can't, like...
You
Because
can't,
it's like not negative. Like, it's just the distance.
it's just the distance, right? So we wouldn't have a negative answer.
Yeah.
So that's why it's always the absolute value. So you will have some problems where you just have to find the distance on a number line. So there's a couple different ways to do it. You can just subtract the numbers and take the absolute value, or you could just count the distance. So like if I want the length from B to W, what is the location of V at? What number? That would be 1. What number would W be? What number would this one be?
5.
5. So you could just subtract the numbers. What's 1 minus 5? There he is.
Recording.
So 1 minus 5 is -4, but what's the absolute value? 4. So that distance would be 4. That's one way to do it. Or you could just count. 1, 2, 3, 4. That has a length of 4. So you will have some problems where you have to find the distance on a number line.
Do we have to do it any specific way?
Yes.
No, you can pick whatever is the easiest for you. So like from T to V. So T is at -4. V is at 1. So if I subtract the numbers but take the absolute value, -4 minus 1 would be -5, but what's the absolute value? 5. Or you could just say, hey, that has a length of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whatever's easiest for you. Okay, I think I've got a couple more. From S to T, what's the easiest way to do it? Is it just to count?
Yeah.
So this has a length of 1, 2, 3. And then S to V, that would have a length of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So can you do problems like that in the assignment? That's pretty easy. Okay, but let's talk about the crazy distance formula. Distance formula.
That scares me.
Yeah, so it looks a little scary, but have you guys ever heard of the Pythagorean Theorem?
Yeah.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared?
Use it like this.
Okay, so that's where the distance formula came from. So I'm going to show you that. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. What if I had something like X squared equals 144? Do you remember how to solve that?
You just like find the square root.
You find the square root. Does anybody know what the square root of 144 is?
Wow.
12, yes. Because 12 times 12 is 144. Well, this right here,
Yeah.
the distance formula is really just the Pythagorean Theorem. If I rewrote this, C squared equals A squared plus B squared. If I had to solve that, that length would just be the square root of A squared plus B squared. So let me show you what I mean by that. So I know it looks a little scary, but these are just lengths of sides in a triangle. So if I had a point here and a point here, and I wanted to find this distance right here, okay? So the distance formula says x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. That's really a squared plus b squared, because this distance is this length right here. So if I do x on the x-axis, x2 minus x1, 3 minus 0, what's that length?
3.
3. This right here, 4 minus 0, 4. 4. So that's just, I would have to do the square root of 3 squared plus 4 squared, and then I would get that length.
Wait, so then would it be like 3 plus 4 basically? Because
No, good question,
Because
good
like
question.
that thing, doesn't it
Yes.
not the square?
If it was by itself, so if I just had the square root of 3 squared, that really would just be 3.
But then
But it's because of that plus sign in the middle,
then
so you
how-
can't cancel it.
So how would
So
that
it would be 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16,
So we would find the square root of that.
square root of
5.
25, which would be 5.
So
Yes.
would we like always solve that whenever we're doing it?
Yes, yes. Question,
Why does it have to be squared?
because,
How to write that.
so did you ever learn the Pythagorean Theorem? A squared plus b squared
I probably
equals
did.
c squared?
No.
Because we're all squares.
Yeah, we really will do a lot more Pythagorean Theorem later. Okay, so points, let's practice. You guys got your calculator?
No.
Okay, get your calculator. Points, all right guys. Points are always x, comma, y. X, comma, y. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
So this is x1, y1, this is x2, y2.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm gonna write out the distance formula and we're just gonna plug everything in. X2 minus x1 squared, y2 minus y1 squared. Main thing is you have to remember to keep the x's together. You have to remember to keep the y's together, okay? So let's write it out and then we're gonna practice typing it in the calculator. Okay, so what number is x2?
X4.
4. 4 minus, what number is x1?
Oh, I do.
2. So remember, it's x comma y, so make sure you use the x's squared, because remember, a squared plus y2 minus y1, 4 minus 3 squared. So now that I have it written out, I can just type it in my calculator. So we're gonna practice typing it in the calculator. So do you guys have a calculator? Okay, calculator. I have my calculator pulled up. So first button on the calculator I want you to push is the lime green second button. So second. And then come down here to the x squared. It's right next to the 7. Do you guys see it? So you've got that square root button. So it's lime green second, and then the x squared button, which is right next to the 7. You guys find it? Okay, now we have to use parentheses. Do you know where the left parenthesis is? It's right above the 8. So I would do 4 minus, I forgot the number, what is it? 4 minus 2, close the parentheses. Now, do you know how to put the little 2 up here?
No.
Okay,
I do.
you're just gonna push the x squared button next to the 7, so you'll just push it.
This looks scary.
And then plus, now we're gonna subtract the y's, which was 4 minus 3, 4 minus 3, close the parentheses and hit x squared. You're gonna have to make sure that you have both parentheses and you're gonna have to make sure you square and have that plus sign. So if you leave one thing out, Skylar, if you leave one thing out, you're gonna miss the problem. So then you hit enter. That answer is the square root of 5. You're gonna have some problems.
Nice.
I'll have to look at it. You're gonna have some problems where you just wanna leave it like that. Let me show you something else. Say I need to convert it to a decimal. Do you see right above the enter, there's those 2 arrows? That's called a toggle button. If you press it, it'll change it to a decimal. If you press it again, it changes it back to radical. It toggles it back and forth. Toggle.
I think I messed up.
So some of your questions, you have to leave it in the radical, and some you have to change to a decimal. If I were gonna round that to the nearest 10th, what would my answer be?
2.2.
2.2, yeah. Okay, let's practice another one, and let's practice typing it in.
But I had a syntax error when I tried to put that in.
Let me look at your, okay.
Calculator.
So when you hit, oh,
OR?
because 4 minus 2.
I think you're hitting
Why do you have 4 minus 2 twice
pretty sure
anyway?
this
It was
is
4
right.
minus 3.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
With the things
No,
also.
it's not. Never mind. Sorry. Sorry.
Don't use the negative.
You
that.
Scientists just want.
Okay. Let's practice another one. Practice another one. So this one is going to have some negatives, so you're going to have to learn how to use the negative button also. So you'll have the minus and the negative. So let's practice typing this in together. So this is x1, y1, x2, y2. It always helps me to label my points so I know which ones I'm subtracting. Here, let me write the distance formula up here. x2 minus x1, y2 minus y1. Okay.
Right, very, very fast.
I do, don't I?
Okay.
So that's just the regular distance formula that's on the board and it will be on your test. You have to know how to plug it in, okay? So you have to know how to label your points, x1, y1, x2, y2. So my formula says to do x2 minus x1. So what number is x2?
2.
X2.
5. Oh, look at that.
5. Does everybody see that?
Yeah.
5. So 5 minus what number is x1? Negative 7. So you've got an option here. What happens when you minus a negative? It's positive. So you can put 5 plus 7, or you can keep it just like this, and I'll show you how to type it in the calculator just like that. So 5 minus negative 7 plus, don't forget your plus sign, follow the formula exactly, parentheses, what number is y2?
2.
2
Yeah.
minus, what number is y1? Negative 3. So we have to type this in the calculator. So I want you guys to do it with me. Do it at the same time. Practice, because I don't want you to get a syntax error. Okay. So do you remember what the first button is to push? Second. So second and then x squared to get the radical. You have to do the left parenthesis. And I've got 5 minus negative 7. So 5, do you know there's a difference between a minus sign and a negative sign on the calculator?
Yes.
So I do minus, and then down here next to the enter is the negative sign. So 5 minus negative 7, close the parentheses and square it. 5 minus negative 7, Skylar, you need to practice typing this in here.
I did.
Okay. Plus, and then I have to do 2 minus negative 3. 2 minus negative 3. So remember there's a difference between a minus sign and a negative sign. You don't want to get a syntax error. And then you have to, whoops. You have to close the parentheses and square it. Did you guys get 13?
Yes,
I squared again.
The squaring is this number right here next to the 7. Yeah. So you should have got 13. Okay, so we'll get lots of practice, don't worry, before your first test, I promise. Yes, question.
On tests, will we be using calculators?
Yes. Every test you'll get a calculator.
Yes.
Okay.
Every test. You will never not get a calculator in here.
Okay.
Okay, this one is on your assignment today. So I don't remember which number it is. I feel like it's maybe number 5, but let's do this one together. You might want to write it down. So the problem with this one is I don't know my points. I have to figure out what my points are because it's just a picture. So do you guys remember that the center of the graph is 0, 0?
Yes.
Okay. So if I want the location of point G, I have to figure how far to the right or left I go, and then how far up or down. So from 0, 0, how far to the right would I go? 1, how far up would I go? So G would be at 1, 1. So G is at 1,
How do
1.
you know that it's coming by ones though?
It will be on these, unless it's marked. If it's marked, it would have to say, like, this would be a 2, 4, 6. It would have to tell you. Otherwise, it's always 1. If it doesn't show any other numbers. Okay, let's look at F. How far to the left would I go?
3,
3. So 1, 2, 3. If I'm going to the left, it's negative. Do you guys remember that?
Yes.
And then how far down am I going?
2.
2. So negative 2. So now I've got my points. Negative 3, negative 2, and 1, 1. I personally like to label my points x1, y1, x2, y2. Because that way you remember to keep the x's together and the y's together. So I'm going to write out the distance formula again just so we see it. x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So let's write it out and type it in the calculator. So what do I have labeled as x2?
X2.
1. And do you guys know that it really doesn't matter?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't
Just do
matter
it
that
the
they're in,
same.
like, the same order.
Correct, yes. So 1 minus negative 3, close parentheses and square it. Always do the x's together and then the y's together. Plus y2 is 1. 1 minus negative 2, close parentheses and square it. So were you not always given a calculator last year?
No,
Oh, you will have it every day here.
I mean,
No, stay shush.
legally no.
So 1 minus negative 3, close parentheses and square it. Don't forget to square it. Plus 1 minus negative 2, close parentheses, square it. Did you get 5?
Yes.
Okay.
What?
I got 5.
I got 7 now.
That's something that never.
You got what?
Let me look at what you have. Oh, you should have put 1 plus 2.
Okay.
Because minus a negative 2 would make plus 2.
Yeah, I was making one.
So that answer is 5 when you see it on your assignment. Now, if you're still struggling, I do have another little video on this that you could go back and watch. Do you guys think that's true? Mental abuse to humans?
I got the truth.
Okay,
Hey.
so back to the calendar. If you click distance formula assignment, it should be unlocked now.
Yeah, what?
It should be unlocked. And I thought the joke was kind of cute. Because you guys know how you count the age of a tree by counting?
Yeah.
I knew she was lying about her age. Anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so number 1, you're just finding the length only on a number line. You don't have to do the crazy distance formula. So like if I want the length from B to D, remember you can subtract the numbers and take the absolute value, or you could just count the length. So from B to D, I'd go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So can you do number 1? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so just count the length.
Oh.
Now starting with number 2, you have to do the distance formula. So make sure you label your points, x1, y1, x2, y2, and then plug it into the distance formula. If you get a syntax error or some kind of problem, let me know. The one we did together, question number 5. The distance from F to G, do you guys remember what that answer was? It was 5. 5. So if you want to go ahead and put a 5 in there. Now I do have this where you can take this more than once. So say you take it and you miss a few, take it again because you want to start off with the highest grade that you can.
Yes.
Okay. It does not show you the correct answers, by the way. So you can't go back and look and go, oh, this is what the answer should be. Number 8 might be the most challenging problem.
2.
But if you need help, let me